Hey everyone, welcome back to part 2 of my 3-part mini-series on the distinction between stress, anxiety, and nervousness. 3 terms that everybody uses and to an extent everybody overuses or misuses because of their misunderstanding of their true definitions. So today, part 2 is going through anxiety, which is probably the most common term. Everybody has said, I feel anxious, or I have anxiety, or I have issues with anxiety or something at some point in their lives. And as a reminder from last week, stress, as we talked about, is more defined just as this sense of pressure, this event of pressure, more like, where if we think about it as this overarching, much more intense sense of pressure, it's less of a feeling state all on its own. It's this sense of pressure plus this response of typically anxiety, which we're going to talk about today. And so with that new perspective on stress, we want to talk about the actual stress response now, which everybody often calls anxiety. Now, in reality, anxiety on the neuroscientific level or on the evolutionary level is just a response to change. Now, what I mean by change is it could either be something that's unexpected, that came as a surprise, or something that isn't necessarily a surprise, but it feels like it's some kind of threat to you in the sense that you don't want to do it. Now, this could mean a lot of things. On the evolutionary side of things, in the animal kingdom, it could mean that a certain species of lion has run out of food or the water's dried up. They don't want to move to another part of the savannah, but all of a sudden this threat to their survival is presented, and it's causing them that stress response. They feel that stress response and like, oh no, it's like this impulsion to do something about it. Okay? Classic example in humans is often when we're asked to speak in public or do something that's somehow putting us in front of a lot of people, people panic. People have this stress response because not only is it unexpected, it's a change from their current environment, but it's also something that people don't want to do. Okay, so it's a combination of all those things. Now, the stress response itself acts as a warning sign. Another classic example is like if you run into a bear in the woods, it's the fight or flight response. It's the moment where it's the moment where your body reacts and tells you whether or not it would be a good idea to fight the bear or run away from the bear. And so it's the physiological reaction. And it's a warning sign of that threat or that change to what you thought or expected the walk in the woods to be like. So what we've discussed so far is the fact that something triggers your stress response. There's some kind of trigger that you perceive as a threat or something that's unexpected or some kind of change or pressure that you have to make or respond to. And so the response itself, though, is not good or bad. In fact, it is, I will argue that it's good because it's healthy. It's giving you this warning of there's a threat. It's a threat against your survival, so it's trying to protect you. So what I will argue, though, is that it's the trigger that we hold an association to as being negative or harmful or scary or intimidating or uncomfortable or whatever it is, like public speaking. A lot of people associate public speaking with discomfort. So when they feel that anxiety response occur, the response itself is not the pain. It's the pain that they've associated with that belief about public speaking. That being said, what a lot of people have a hard time understanding is that the feeling state of being stressed, the feeling state of being anxious, and as you'll hear next week, the feeling state of being nervous are not actually bad things. It's super uncomfortable in the moment. It doesn't feel good in the body, but it doesn't mean that they're trying to hurt you. They're trying to warn you of, hey, maybe you should do something about this before this threat continues to threaten your well-being. So how does this apply to your life? The real clincher about this is that a lot of people don't like the idea that anxiety can actually be positive or helpful in some kind of way, or healthy. They are so linked to the trigger of the anxiety being negative and painful and scary that they think when they feel anxiety, anxiety itself and the stress response that wells up is also evil or bad or scary or uncomfortable. Okay? So, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, stress, anxiety, and nervousness are all warning signs. They're just feeling states, just to raise a flag and let you know, hey, something's not feeling right, or this is unexpected, or this is uncomfortable, and it gives you the opportunity to do something about it. And there are always two directions that people go in. The one direction is doing something that just ignores the anxiety, ignores the pain, stifles it, suppresses it, or pushes it away, or just doesn't, you just don't do that thing. For instance, if your boss comes up to you and asks you to go speak in front of a huge group of people, you could just choose to quit. You could just choose to do something that does not actually lean into the anxiety and do the thing that has to be done to ensure your survival, in that case, keeping your job. Okay? Other people will just, they'll come up with different coping skills. They come up with unhealthy coping skills, or like drinking or video games or whatever, sitting for hours in front of the television just to avoid anything that's causing them that kind of discomfort or demanding anything of their life. Now, those are avoidant. Those are ways that you can ameliorate the anxiety by avoiding the anxiety and doing something else. And then option number 2 is actually leaning into it, recognizing this is presenting some kind of real threat or concern, and maybe I should do something to act on this so that I don't continue to feel this anxiety in the future. A lot of people choose the short-term option of avoiding the anxiety or just trying to push it away, instead of the long-term healthier option of doing something to get past the anxiety, and which creates a healthier scenario for yourself and a new habit and discipline for yourself going forward. So, quick recap, because we were able to go pretty deep on this one. This is a topic I love talking about, if you couldn't tell. So, as a summary, anxiety is just another warning sign, kind of like stress is, but anxiety is the experience of some kind of change or perceived threat to your work, your life, your expected homeostasis, the balance that you have your life in. But as a warning sign, it impels you to choose one direction of action or response or another. You'll feel the bodily response, your heart rate will quicken, you'll get sweaty, you get nervous, maybe you'll feel a little nauseous, and then you have two choices: either do something to short-term push it away, or long-term get over the anxiety, get past the anxiety, and be healthier. So here's the real question for you all. If you recall, I said that the trigger of the anxiety, it's not so important about like what you do with it. Obviously that's important, but it's not so important right away. The most important first thing for you to think about is, what is the trigger of your anxiety? Because that's the thing that we interpret as dangerous or scary or unhealthy or really threatening. And then we make the feeling state that same kind of, we label the feeling state with those same kind of identifiers. So it's really just the trigger. It's the thing, whether it's being asked to give a speech, or to cook dinner, or to drive to the supermarket. I don't know what it is. It just could be anything, any teeny tiny request of you throughout your day that causes a huge stress response. I want to know what that is, because that's the first step to knowing how you can completely shift your own relationship with your anxiety. And it can become so much lesser of an intense experience. You can diminish it and understand it differently if you just understand how powerful the trigger is. So please think about that. I'd love to hear your answers to these questions. But more importantly, so go ahead and subscribe to my channel. We're going to talk about nervousness next week, so stay tuned for that, and I will talk to you then.